Hey guys, I'm so excited. You get to meet she's become one of my very best friends. She started out working for me and now she has her own beautiful company called Nurture Productivity. We're going to talk all about how she created that, how that started, what exactly she does. I know what she does for me. She basically takes my entire business chaos and makes it seamless, and I don't know that I could do really anything in my business without her. So let me introduce you to Christina Iskandar of Nurture Productivity. She is such a badass, and I can't wait for you to dive in. So grab a cup of coffee, and here we go. Hey guys, welcome back to Tribe of Unicorns. I'm your host, Kendra Beavis, and I am sitting with my very good friend, my right-hand woman. I don't think I could do anything in life really without her. Christina Iskandar. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a long time coming. I'm so excited.
So excited to have you on the show. You are the CEO and founder of Nurture Productivity. Do you want to tell us what that is?
Yeah, so at Nurture Productivity, we help boutique marketing agency owners calm the chaos, streamline operations, and really just scale sustainably, building processes and systems in tools like ClickUp and HubSpot. We're really all about, you can have a profitable business, but you don't need to burn out doing it.
I know you've certainly done that for me and Mocha and Eve, all of my businesses, and for just my head. How did you come to find this? Because I know usually our journey to where we're at today is a pretty windy one. Um,
Yes, definitely.
Tell me about your origin story. Where did you start?
So I live out in Colorado now, but I actually grew up and was born and raised on Long Island in New York. So I went to college out in Stony Brook University, did my undergrad and grad school there, then really dove headfirst into the New York corporate culture, which I know you're familiar with too. Big corporations, really working in that, starting off in that traditional product marketing kind of role. I really fell in love with the digital world. Like, I just think it's so amazing how we can amplify our messages across, so far across the world using all different tools and technologies. And I just absolutely adored that. So I decided to kind of pivot into agency life and just really get my hands in as many accounts and industries as I could. And it was just an incredible experience for me. Then fast forward a little bit, when COVID hit, my husband and I both went remote, and we kind of had, there's a few, I guess, light bulb moments that I had throughout my journey. And that was the first one. COVID hit and we were both remote, and we were like, if we could go anywhere, where would we go? What is the life that we would want to build if we don't have this thing kind of shackling us to a physical location? So we decided to pack up our car, we packed up Hashbrown, and we drove to Colorado. And we've been here since 2020 or
Oh,
2021.
I'm going to stop you right there. You have to
Mhm.
explain who Hash Brown is.
Oh, of course. Hashbrown is our marketing manager. He is our little angel. He's a little corgi cattle dog mix that we rescued, and he is the best. He comes on all of my meetings. I have him, he's in the office right now because he would be a little distracting, but usually he's sitting right in my lap. He's our little baby.
Yes, I love Hash Brown. He's the cutest, and he's always a welcome addition to every call we have.
Oh, yes. Usually his little ears are popping up
Yes,
right
it's
here.
the cutest. And I have to say, it's one of the reasons that I called you,
Oh my
um,
gosh, yes.
because well, I don't want to stop our flow. Let's keep going. You're in Colorado now. You're digital nomads to a point. You're kind of having these light bulb moments of wow. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of us had that during COVID. Like,
Yeah,
we don't
that was
have to live a certain way. We can.
yeah, it was the silver lining in a very dark time of just giving people the opportunity to really think. Mark and I were pulling up on our TV like a map of the US, and we're like, should we live there? Should we live there? Should we live there? And when I got to Colorado, it was an interesting experience because it was such a beautiful breakthrough for us, but I also was really sick. And at the time, we really didn't know what was going on. And I had to leave my corporate job that, I thought for a long time I was going to climb the corporate ladder. I was going to be the CMO at a big company, like we all have those kinds of aspirations in college and things. And I couldn't keep up anymore, all of the hustle and all of the hard work. I am so grateful for it, and I couldn't do what I'm doing without having had that experience. But it catches up to your body, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I had to really shift my entire life to prioritize my health, to prioritize going to doctor appointments and finding out what is wrong. And that was another kind of big catalyst for me of I always thought about, working at an agency. You're like, oh, one day I would like to be a consultant, have my own kind of business. And it kind of forced me into that pretty quick. It was like, all right, I need to take complete control of my own schedule in order to aggressively pursue this big question mark that I had around my health. And I started full time freelancing. And through that, another kind of light bulb moment, which I talk a lot to new entrepreneurs about as well, is at first, I came from a full service digital background. So I just was doing anything and everything. I was like, I could do copywriting, I could do social media, I could do blog posts, but you cannot be everything to everyone. It
Nope.
doesn't work. It does not work, and you don't attract the right clients. It's just not something that I was feeling good about. I wasn't progressing in the way that I wanted to progress. And it was actually, it's funny, it was a conversation we had one day, and it was on just like a regular planning meeting, and we were chit chatting and we were talking about ClickUp. And you just said to me, Christina, why don't you sell that? Like, why don't you sell like, you're so talented building systems, and this is such a technical niche skill, sell it. And I had just never thought about it. I was just like, I never thought about building systems and going into this more marketing operations kind of role. And then I remember going to Mark after and being like, I've got the thing. Like, I think we should open a productivity agency. And that was really what kind of birthed nurture productivity in its early stages. And then from there, it has just been, I mean, really ups and downs, but mostly ups. It's just been an incredible experience getting to dig into systems. Like, we champion ClickUp and HubSpot. I love building in those softwares. I love getting different clients organized and just pulling them out of the weeds, seeing how the New York culture is. I just knew that there was a different way. There's
Yeah.
a different way to do it. And it's actually so much better. And you get so much higher quality work, happier teams, happier clients by just kind of adopting a different mindset and a different framework when you're looking at your systems in your business.
Yeah. I wonder, so you were saying how you kind of were doing everything for everyone. Do you do you think that's a necessary step, or do you think there's some sort of in forethought that can happen before you try all the things? Like, I guess a lot of it is how clear on are you on what you want to do, but
Hmm.
also, if unless you try things, how would you know? What's
I
your thoughts
think
on that?
it was a really good way to experiment and trial as a full-time freelancer before I built my brand. I
Mm,
think had I built my brand right off the bat, I think I would have been completely rebranding a year later, which isn't ideal, you know? So I think it's a necessary trial, but I would say for entrepreneurs, if you're thinking about, okay, I need to make this trial, I wouldn't go full steam ahead, build your brand, build your website, because you don't exactly know what the market needs. I mean, even when we had that conversation of why don't you sell it, that was one piece of it. And then the other piece was that because of COVID, because there have been so many layoffs and people are leaning more on technology and systems and AI, there was a booming market opportunity
right.
also. So it kind of was that perfect pairing of, I'm really good at this, it makes me happy, people don't like it and want to hire people to do it because entrepreneurs are so busy, and it takes a lot of practice with something like that. And it was something that, I mean, when you talk about time in New York, my first job out of college, I was managing Salesforce and Pardot for a huge commercial sales team. So that CRM technology piece of it had just always followed me through, and it always just felt like, it was just something I knew how to do. It was something that I was good at, something I had a lot of experience in. And then really just diving full force into it just totally changed the trajectory of my career and my business. It's it's interesting when I was thinking about niching, because that's the first thing when you're doing
Yeah.
everything for everyone. Everyone's like, all right, you got a niche, you got a niche.
I know,
And you
but how do
think
you know
of,
what to niche into unless you know?
right.
Yeah,
And you can lean on your experience, but your experience might not be what you actually are passionate about and what you
right.
want. And then how do you break into that industry? But then another interesting moment was when I realized you don't need to niche into an industry. You can niche into a skill, into a software. And that's when I was like, ClickUp and HubSpot. I am going to sell ClickUp and HubSpot.
Yep.
Those are the tools that I champion. They're the tools we run our business on in the way that we're preaching. So
Mhm.
that was really a big one for me too. Was you don't have to niche necessarily in the traditional ways that you think of when you think about niching.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a good place to start, especially when you're starting out. I think if you're a more seasoned business owner, looking at who you're servicing and at that point, really defining
Mhm.
your ideal client is, I know, something you've done. But I don't
Mhm.
know that you can necessarily do that in the beginning. Even with creating Eve, I mean, how many times has it changed? Like, first it's this, and then it's going to be this master class of workshop.
Mhm.
And it turned out based on the feedback and what people wanted and really what I liked doing. I was
Yes.
shocked that I hated building these huge courses. And then I realized I would never take this because I hate taking big courses too. So, but I wouldn't have known that unless I like sort of threw the spaghetti at the wall and saw what stuck.
Right. And that's something actually we have a core value of at Nurture Productivity is progress over perfection. I think that was a really big mindset shift for me too, coming from even in my corporate roles into when I was more senior in my corporate roles, I started to wrap my head around it more. When I made a shift really to working in agile is when I started to embrace it more. But in the beginning, oof, was I a perfectionist? And that makes it really hard to work in any type of creative field, industry, position, company, because you have to throw the spaghetti on the wall. You have to.
Yeah.
And sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to really start to be okay with that too. And that was really hard for me at first. The fact that sometimes I'm going to miss and it's
Right.
okay. And sometimes we're all going to miss. And, you
Missing
know,
sucks, but it's a part of the process.
exactly. And actually, something that makes it a lot less harsh is having your community. Like having Eve has been, oh, I could get choked up. It has been instrumental in the way that I have been able to scale my business. Just having that community behind you makes such a difference. And it's something that I share pretty often with my clients now when I talk to people and they're feeling like imposter syndrome, or they made a big decision and they're like, shoot, I don't know if this is the right if I made the right decision. And having your community to just be there to listen, to support you, to validate you, and not even necessarily validate always in the way of like you made the right decision, but just I understand why you made that decision.
Yeah.
And that has just been so huge for me. And I mean, it's so multifaceted too. The community and support is one thing. And then there's all of the actual tactical tools and resources. I know we've talked a lot about this, and I've talked with the women in Eve too. It's so hard to keep time for your own business when you are working
Mhm.
in a service-based, client-based kind of structure.
Right.
Your business is always the client that gets pushed. It's always the thing that you don't have time for. It's non-billable, so you're like, okay, well, it's not revenue generating, but it is, but it's not directly. So it's hard to make time for it. And knowing that I have these very specific blocks of time set aside for also very specific tasks, like when we
Yeah.
did our value props and we're talking about like our ideal client, and I had these two buyer personas, and I was like, how do I speak to both of them? And just gaining the clarity of when we were talking, and you were
You
like,
don't.
well, yes, you don't. When you were like, who are your ideal clients? And I named a few, and you said, and what bucket did they fall in? And I said, oh, they are all boutique marketing agencies, and that is who I want to work with, and that is what brings me joy. That clarity, it sounds like something you're like, oh, I'll just write my value prop. It'll be fine. It'll take 10 minutes. But it's those fundamental pieces that we push aside so often as entrepreneurs, especially in service-based businesses when we have other clients we're serving. And being able to have that time set aside, and then being able to soundboard of other women who are in the same position as me. I mean, that's just where do you find a group like that,
I know.
you know?
I,
And I have a client that puts it a really interesting way that I like, that she always says, sometimes entrepreneurship just feels like you're like out on this island by yourself.
yeah.
And I was like, but now you never have to be ever again because you don't you have like there is community.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that has been one of the things that's not as I feel like directly talked about in entrepreneurship and business necessarily, but has been just a catalyst for me as nurture's scaled and grown, having that community to fall back on, having those skills. I mean, even knowing that we have a coaching corner and I can just hop on and I know that I can talk to you about what I'm going through and just soundboard like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Have you ever been through this? And a lot of times someone in the room has been through it or someone in the room has some type of insights. And I just think that that has been just so beautiful. And
Yeah.
then, I mean, talk about mindset too. That's a whole other piece. Like it truly is such a multifaceted, just so many different benefits. The mindset has been incredible too. I think that's a piece that we hear about, we need to get an entrepreneurial mindset and we need to do all of these things, but it's like how and
Right.
with what and how do you visualize and how do you start to shift your mindset? So it's just combining so many different things and all like drawing back to I feel like when I think of the overarching thing about Eve, it's like all of our values align with one another, and we're
Yes.
all building businesses where our values align with ourselves, with our clients, and I just think that that's where the magic happens is in all of the alignment.
Yeah. Because I know when, and I know when, we were originally talking about this idea, I was so worried that, traditionally, when I would attend a networking meeting, there were so many people that I just felt like, wow, that I would never even go have coffee with this person, much less share
Right.
personal things about my business and my mindset with them. So I was really worried that we were, and it almost to the point where it was going to be application based at first. We were going to like
I
make sure,
remember. Yes.
but I find that what's happening is because we just lead with who we are, we're attracting the same people.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a beautiful thing to see, all these heart-centered entrepreneurs coming forward together and finding their people. It's like we're all on the same island together and we just,
Yes.
rounded the corner and there we are.
And it's so great too. I mean, to have the network also to refer my clients to,
Yeah.
like when you have that like trusted network, a lot of my clients oftentimes will reach out to me like, even though it's technically out of my services, it's like, hey, by any chance, is anyone in your network doing XYZ? And the fact that I'm able to say, oh, here's this person that does social media, here's this person that does websites, here's this person that does graphics, and I work with them on a, I minimally meet with them on a monthly basis. I know them, I trust them. That's a whole other piece to it too. I mean, also I would say like networking has also been huge, even in the more overarching sense of just like putting yourself out there, getting connections through people that you trust, getting referrals from other clients. Similarly to Mocha, actually, we don't advertise. Everything comes through word of mouth.
Yeah, can you talk about that? Because it's something I really have always felt very strongly about. And yeah, talk about that first, and then I have a second follow up question.
Yeah, so when we first started, I mean, of course, we were bootstrapping too. We didn't really have money to run these huge digital campaigns. And for me, it was a little tough because I came from, again, this full service digital background where I was working, and so was Mark, with, I mean, sometimes multi-million dollar budgets. So I knew how to market and I knew how to build campaigns, but I was like, I don't have a $20,000 ad budget a month. So what can we do without advertising essentially that's gonna kind of put us out there? And the first thing I actually did, to come back around to your one of your comments originally, is I built that capabilities deck,
Mm,
and I really put all of my portfolio in there, my statistics in there, and then I put a page about Hashbrown because I wanted people to see my personality through something like that. And I feel like that was a really good way in the beginning to attract the right type of clients. I didn't want a client that's going to be like, oh, she put her dog in the deck. That's weird. Okay, well, you're not my ideal client.
right. I love
And
that validation tool. That's amazing.
oh yeah, I've been joking around with Mark that like on our client fit checklist that we're going to make, Do you like dogs? +1. Do you have a dog? +2. Does the dog join the meetings? +3, +5. You're like ideal client.
Yes. We're working together and we're probably going to meet up someday and go on a trip.
Yes. Um, so I think really it was at first just focusing on attracting the right clients in the beginning, and then truly you deliver excellent work. That is the probably most important thing that I did. I care a lot about my clients. I care so much. I say all the time, like, if you're my client, like your business is my business. Your business needs to succeed for my business to succeed. So then we're in this like really interesting kind of flywheel of just fueling each other's growth. And then through that, I can say, hey, I helped XYZ client achieve this goal. So that's how I can then take this piece of the system that I developed and plug it into your system to help you achieve a similar goal. And I think that kind of just doing good work for the right kind of people, then those kind of people are referring similar people because everyone kind of works within these different networks. And truly just word of mouth, putting myself out there a little bit on social media. um I will say in the very very beginning I probably spent all of Fridays just scouring the internet, like connecting with people on in Facebook groups and on LinkedIn and applying to kind of like jobs that weren't jobs, like consultant gigs, things like
Mhm.
that. Or sometimes if someone was looking for a full-time person, I'd say, hey, I can consult and do that. Um, so definitely a lot of legwork in the beginning, but all of it, I mean, once you get a few clients, then I feel like it all really started just being a cyclical referral, word of mouth kind of thing.
Yeah, because when, as the business owner who's worked with you, when somebody does some a job for you and they go above and beyond and have changed your business in such a way that like 20 of your friends who are also CEOs who also run big companies like need this so
Exactly.
badly. So
Yes.
you're literally like, I'm I'm constantly talking about nurture. I'm constantly talking about you because the clients that I work with, the people that in my network, like everybody needs you. And a lot of times they don't even know it. They just sort of
Yes.
have these daisy chain Frankenstein systems. They think
Hmm.
that it's working, but then every I've seen so many times where somebody has a system, but then every single different job, it makes you reinvent the wheel every time. It's like, oh, well, that's a special
Yep.
circumstance. That's a special. Well, if they're all special circumstances, there's something wrong with your system.
Exactly. And it's such a foundational piece of your business. I mean, your system, it's the backbone of everything. And I've been there when you have the Franken system and you're like, okay, but this is a quick fix. And let me just put a band-aid here and a workaround here. And it works, kind of, technically it works. But then when you start integrating and automating and it's the little things like when you mark a status done, why is it not just automatically moving into your done group? Why do you want to physically drag it in? Like those little tiny things that you can automate end up saving you so much time. And just building that foundation, then it applies to everything. It just grows and grows and grows and scales with you. And when you have a system that scales with you, that's the best thing because then 5 years, 10 years from now your business is growing. Sometimes you got to rip it out and migrate it to a new thing and redo it, but ideally you don't want to. You
Right.
want to build your system from the start where it just grows and morphs and becomes this kind of ever evolving thing alongside your business.
I think that's the great thing about the programs that you work with. Like
Hmm.
ClickUp has such a low point to entry, like the low cost to entry. You can keep upgrading it, but I mean, really, it's what it does for the business versus how much it costs is like
Oh,
nothing.
it's incredible. I mean, and I've even built people out, smaller systems on the free plan.
Yeah,
Sometimes if they want to just test it out and see a few of the features, I've done builds as small as that, and then builds as big as Mocha, where we're building out an entire agency with a dispersed global team.
yeah,
And I mean, I love ClickUp. It's obviously a tool that we champion. I feel very strongly about championing the tools that we've built our business on, and Mocha has built their business on, and Eve too. And it has just been, I've tried all the tools,
yeah.
and ClickUp it's doing it all. It's really a fantastic software that is just changing more rapidly in my opinion than anything that's on the market. And now with the AI integrations that they're or AI agents and things like that that they're
Right.
releasing, it's just getting better and better and better. And I would say one of my favorite features of it, which I know we use at Mocha too, I love the workload and the workload capacity
Love.
and planning and just being able to track all of my time natively. Just click, I'm tracking time. I mean, it's not like that in every other software. It's
No.
sometimes very complicated to be able to report on data like that. And when you're working at an agency and where you own an agency, it's like mission critical data. You don't know if your accounts are profitable. You don't know if your business is profitable or not if you
Or
can't
if your
track
team
time
is
and report
stressed.
on it. Yeah, like you're flying blind if you don't
Right.
have some kind of system.
Right. Right.
Um, and having that workload feature and being able to project your time. Okay, I think this is going to take me 5 hours. This is going to take me five. Oh, I'm over on Tuesday by 12 hours. I got to move something. And being able to project all of that, that's like the secret sauce to never working late again. You know what you have coming on your plate every single day. I plan every week. We're even experimenting with longer sprints, potentially projecting out 2 to 3 weeks to try
Mhm.
and just continue honing in. And it's like we were talking about before. It's progress over perfection. You make little tweaks, um, and kind of change how things are moving and grooving in the system. And it's just an unbelievably powerful tool that I only see getting better as they continue
Yeah.
to develop.
And I really do think, I know a lot of women that are starting out with a business don't even realize they need a tool like
Hmm.
this, but I cannot tell you how important it is to start with the right tools because,
Yes.
they just grow with you. They just help you scale quicker. And if you're starting at the baseline with the things that you need, and like I said, they're reasonably priced. So why wouldn't you? Um,
That's so good too. I mean, I have clients and that have other softwares that I help build systems in, and it's very expensive. Some of
right.
these softwares, when you start stacking the add-ons and like other softwares you need and integrations, and this is zapping to this, like it can be a lot. It can add up very quickly when you're stacking
Yeah.
softwares like that.
Yeah. And especially if you have a larger team and you're all
Hmm.
remote. I mean, I never had such a clear picture of what everyone's doing, what everyone's working on, the communication within each job, and also like the chat features. It's just, I've been able to see what is happening in my business in a very clear way. And it's allowed me to make a lot of interesting and important decisions.
Hmm.
Um, and that trickles down to the type of work we take, how much work we take on. If I see that maybe the team's just overworked and overloaded, you know then we push work out or we don't take
Right.
different projects. But I was never able to see that before. I just assumed like, yeah, they can do it.
Because you have this kind of idea, which isn't always necessarily wrong, but when you have like a big team and a more senior team too, you're kind of like, oh, well, if there's an issue, someone will come tell me, which they will, but we want to be proactive. We don't want to
Right.
be reactive. We don't want to say, okay, we just onboarded a client and now we have someone being like, hey, I am overloaded. I cannot take on this work. And then we've got the client and we're like, oh.
Yeah.
So, really, just making that shift to being proactive rather than reactive, and that's tough when you're in an agency setting. It's not an easy thing to accomplish
Yeah.
because you're constantly just getting emails from this person and a Slack from this person and then a request from this person, but then you haven't gotten to the request from the other thing that they sent you. And it can be very overwhelming and it's very fast paced. Um,
How do
and
you
I,
handle that actually? Like when you're
mhm.
working with a new client who has a large team, like the actual implementation and then getting them to hold the team accountable for actually using the new system. How do you handle that?
I give them a lot of training and a lot of resources. So I would say when I'm working with a bigger team specifically, typically they'll have kind of like representatives of some sort for each function per se. There's typically like maybe a creative director or like the account director, or it might be the CEO, CFO, like that kind of thing. So definitely keeping those key stakeholders involved throughout the audit and the build is critical so that they have that top buy-in and then it
Mm,
can trickle down. And then when it starts to trickle down, we're ready to, I've implemented and I'm like, okay, now we need to maintain this system. I will give, like, I love giving Loom videos. I'll give a Loom video that is pretty much me training you on the system and walking through the hierarchy, walking through how to add tasks, walking through the different custom fields. That way they always have this thing to look back on. They don't have to try and take notes during our session and oh, what did Christina say this automation does? Like, they just always have these reference points to go back to. So a big thing we do too is really build SOPs and make
Yeah.
sure that the team has all of the resources, SOPs, playbooks, depending on the system, has all of those resources. And then I'm always available too. If I build someone's system, I always say, I'm not going to like abandon you and just disappear into the ether.
Yeah.
I'm always here if you're having having trouble with something's not working as expected. I mean, one big piece of building in softwares is they have bugs. It happens.
And they
It's always
change.
going to happen. Yes, and they change. Absolutely. I mean, a system that maybe, I have a time tracking integration for right now. Well, what if they release it natively? Then my whole system changes. So it really is this kind of ongoing partnership with them too. It's providing that initial training, resources, support, but then really explaining to them that I'm here to help them. Like, I'm not gonna just, like I said, I'm not just going to disappear and never talk to you again and leave you with this system that you don't know how to manage.
Yeah.
We're always here to support our clients and ensure that everything's working properly. And it kind of goes back to that your business is my business. Like, if something's wrong, I want to know and I want to help you. And
Right.
I want to make sure that everything is working as seamlessly as possible and having those consistent kind of just like optimizations, updates. A lot of times when I build a system, typically I'll stay on, even if it's like a really low couple hours of support a month,
Right.
availability or ad hoc availability.
Yeah, like a
That way they
quarterly
just,
review or yearly review.
yeah, I've done like tech audits, things like tech stack audits, and just like making sure everything is
Yes.
still up to date.
I want to talk
Uh,
about that. How
yeah.
do you evaluate software?
Yeah. So typically what I'll do and what I'm working on for Nurture actually as well that I've implemented for other clients is I want to build essentially a tech stack audit right in ClickUp. I want it to
Mm,
be in our Nurture productivity space. It's a list and it's all of our softwares, what the function is and what the cost is, and if it's integrated into anything or how it can be integrated, if there's any integration opportunities.
yeah.
And then I'll kind of line item by line item, okay, ClickUp, critical, not like it's staying. HubSpot, critical, it's staying. But really good example is I have Dropbox Sign and Google Suite just released their e-signature feature, and that is going to overtake my Dropbox subscription. So now I know, okay, I just unfortunately had just paid my annual because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, but I had just paid my annual. So now I know, okay, next time, like, I need to cancel it and now I'm just going to use Google. So now Google has overtaken this, couple $100 subscription. And while you're like, it's a couple $100, like I said, it adds up very, very quickly when you're stacking
Sure.
softwares. So, now I can save that, put it toward maybe, I don't know, some other software that I want to experiment with. Or like we do a lot of just testing with softwares. A lot of
Right.
times, Mark really kind of heads up our AI development and research. And he's just testing things all the time. I mean, you saw we posted like a little video of Hashbrown and I as like this crochet style.
Yes, that was
And like, it was so cute and fun. And we just wanted to try one of the AI, like new AI video softwares that were out there. So like having that money to even potentially just go into an experimentation bucket when you're starting to condense.
yeah. Yeah. And especially with AI and AI tools right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't tell you how many I don't even know how many I pay
I
for.
know. Sometimes I see it come up, I'm like reconciling in QuickBooks and I'm like, Mark, what is blah, blah, blah? And he's like, oh, new AI. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I know. I have like
And all the
Claude
names are
and
crazy. It's so funny.
ChatGPT and 11
Hmm.
Lab, like all sorts of so while, MailChimp and all these other things, now there's this whole other new category of, AI stuff, agents, whatever.
Yes. And
Um,
I'm just so excited for the continued AI growth. I mean, I know it has just fundamentally changed my business too. I mean, the way that I've been able to, quite frankly, scale Nurture has a lot to do with AI because I've been able to fast track so many things that took me so much longer. I'm able
yeah,
to take on more work now. And I think probably another big piece of our growth was hiring Mark part-time.
Mm.
That was
Can
a
you talk about
really
hiring?
yeah. So this was another really, really exciting moment. So Mark and I own and run the business together. So he is my life partner and business partner, and we have really great complementary skills. So Mark also works in marketing and comes from an entrepreneurial background, worked in fitness for a long time, things like that. And it was kind of always our goal to have him working on the business, but when I didn't need help just yet, it was kind of what I was doing. He has a full-time job. And then very recently, it was probably actually right around the holidays maybe when we first started talking about it. I was underwater. I was just there was too much going on, and I was able to service my clients and that was fine, but nurture was neglected. Like, I was not posting on social media. I was not writing any content. I was doing absolutely nothing for the business. I was barely getting my invoices out on time. And bringing Mark in and finally having that moment of like, wow, I need help and I need to hire someone. And then I was like, I can hire my husband. I mean, how amazing is that?
Amazing.
That's just it's just we're like living the dream. I truly, and I know it sounds cheesy, but we are living the dream out here in Colorado, running our business together. We sit. I'm not in my office right now, but in our office, it's literally my desk is here, Mark's desk is right there, and Hashbrown's bed is in between us. And that's how we work every day together, and we bounce ideas off each other. And he's really just completely taken over all of the internal operations and marketing for Nurture. And like I said, taking on the AI development and research, because that's like a whole beast in
Oh,
itself.
forget it.
And now I've been able to really focus on serving clients, which is really where my skill set lies. That's a little bit different than Mark's. Mark doesn't have that agency background. He has a lot more in-house, C-suite, like things like that. Whereas I have that client side, and that's where I thrive.
Yeah.
I love working with my clients. I love getting on calls with them, and that's been such an interesting shift for me too. I remember sometimes when you're working for someone else, working in a corporate role, you obviously don't get to choose your clients.
Right.
You get the clients and you make it work. And sometimes you have awesome clients. I mean, I've had some amazing clients that I still keep in touch with from my corporate life. Sometimes you get some doozies. I had some doozies.
Yeah.
And something that I read in a book right in the beginning when I was building Nurture. It was this book called Building a Micro Agency, and it was this book about a husband and wife who went off and built this Google Ads centered agency. And he said when he would get on client calls, he was excited. Like, he was excited to catch up with them. He wanted to know how they're doing. He cared about them, and they were like friends, And I took really like that to heart too, of why should I ever feel, anxious going into a call with a client, nervous, and like I don't there's nothing to be afraid of ever when you're working with the right people.
Right. Yeah.
And that was a
Huge part of
huge
like the
yeah.
client validation gut check.
Yes.
I always say red flag clients because after a
Mhm.
while, and I'm sure anyone that's listening to this that has a larger or has a little more years under their belt, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that
Yes.
red flag client, it's reminiscent of, oh, that reminds me of this one, or it's those
Mhm.
things that I know that's just gonna go off the rails because I've dealt with this type of person before, whether it's the personality, whether it's the organization of the scope of work. There can be so many different things, and you may love the person, but you see
Yes,
the
that's true.
potential problems.
Yeah, I would say that's been so critical too, taking on the right clients. That has really fueled my growth. When people ask me like, how do you have like such a great client base that you care about and they care about you and you do good work and you're taking off, and I say no a lot.
Yeah,
And I know that sounds really bizarre as a business owner who's sitting here saying we're growing, we're like all of these things, but I say no a lot. If there's something that is not in my kind of like even software world, I mean, like I said, there's a million other softwares that you can build in similar to ClickUp, but I don't know those like the back of my hand, like I
right.
do like ClickUp. There's a couple that I do, but really saying no to the things that aren't in my wheelhouse. Sometimes I have a lot of trouble with, because I come from a full service background. Even people who know me from my full service background might be like, "Oh, well, can you design this for me? Can you consult on this campaign?" And it's like, I could,
And you want to
but I'm
help
not gonna.
everybody, especially if you know
Right.
them. But
That is a big challenge.
yeah.
But staying in my lane, can't be everything to everyone. So I would say, saying no to that and saying no to those red flags. Like a really good one is, if a client ghosts you on your intro call or discovery call,
Oh yeah.
probably not going to be very respectful of your time. And to me, that's very important to me, is to be respectful of my time, and vice versa. I think everyone deserves their time to be respected. Time is your most valuable resource.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So watching out for stuff like that, following your instinct. It's
Yes.
like you said, after you have just the sheer volume of client experience, your gut knows. If
We
you
could
you get
do
on and it's a weird vibe, you know.
we could do an entire episode on just red flags to look out for.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, yes. Sometimes you gotta like take the sage around the computer.
right? I think a lot of people too in the beginning are so afraid to say no. And while
Yes.
something may look like a big fat paycheck, if it's if
Is
it
it
is a problem,
profitable?
oh my God, you could
It rarely ever is when it's
right,
that, because you know the ones I'm talking about. It
yes.
comes in and
We're
it's,
not saying any
eh,
names.
no, of course not.
Like
And
I see you.
it's a big, big opportunity, and you're like, "How do I not take this?" But those are the ones that, if you're getting a bad, and not to say sometimes the opportunity comes along, it's a big fat paycheck and it's totally aligned and it's amazing.
Right.
But you have to trust your gut, because sometimes those clients where, they maybe have a large project and it's a lot of moving pieces, but they're not communicating with you. They're not, respecting your time. They're not getting on the calls with you. They're not giving you the information you need, because also I can't build a system without knowing about your
Right.
business.
Or
And
their
same way,
team
you
is
can't
too
build a
green.
website without,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Like the founder or whoever you initially speak to like is amazing, and then you get in the weeds with their team and their team just has no idea what's going on. I
Yeah.
have had several situations though where maybe they check 3 of the 5 boxes and those other 2 are like, "Ugh, God, do I say yes? Do I say no?"
Yellow flags.
Yes. I think you can almost turn that into a green flag client as long as you are very clear on this is exactly how this project needs to go. And if you can't
Yes.
do that, then this isn't a good fit. If they understand that, if because sometimes they're just not sure how to go
Mhm.
about how to create a really clear scope of work, how to be even completely communicative of what they actually need. So I do find that, and I know you've experienced this too, like almost training your client a little bit in the way
Mhm.
that you work and that the way that you work best can turn that into a green flag client pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think a big piece of that too, and another one of our kind of core values, is radical transparency,
Mm,
clear expectations. If you're looking for a system to be built, a super complex system, and you need it in a week, I'm not your girl. You got to go to a big agency with a built out team, and yeah, they can probably turn it around for you. But that's
right.
not the style I work in, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, can't be everything to everyone.
No.
And you need to take on, I mean, I have in my contracts all of my turnaround times, and
And
they might not be the
communication.
same. Yes, and my communication, different channels. I tell people all the time, you can email me, but you're getting a faster response from me in
Right.
ClickUp.
Right, and you're
So,
never getting my
that's
cell
up
phone
to
number.
you. Yes, that was a big one. That was a big shift, moving from corporate, into my own freelancing and then into my own business. Get a Google Voice number. It forwards to
Yeah,
your cell phone anyway, and then you can set the hours, set when it's on, even do not disturb. Sometimes I just turn it off if I'm in a deep focus session.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it when you're a solopreneur, even if you're working with a team, you have to have open and closed hours. You
You have to. You
cannot
have to.
survive if you are just working 24/7.
That's right.
It's never gonna
You
work.
can't you can't be on all the time. You cannot. It's not possible. You will burn yourself out. You have to have rest.
Yeah,
And that's what's so important with building these foundational processes and systems too, because part of it is making sure that you have that. this is when I'm on, this is when I'm off. And that's not to say when you're on, totally depends on your preference.
Sure.
I am a morning girl through and through. I am up and on the computer between 7 and 8 a.m., but I'm logging off at 3, 4 p.m. because I want to go hike.
Yeah.
And that's what works for me. But I know plenty of people who are like, I do not log on till 10 a.m. and I do my best work from 4 to 7.
Hmm.
And that's okay too, but they still have then that time in the beginning, that's their time to rest. And
Right.
I feel like that's just so, so important. Rest, giving yourself, especially working, in creative services or having creative teams, a creative agency, you need time to be creative. You need time to just sit there and I am so big on marinating.
Yeah.
Just marinate. I do not make pretty much any decisions on the spot. Like you would be hard pressed to get me to make any decisions on a call ever.
Yeah.
I will always say, let me think about that. Let me marinate on it. I will get back to you, in a couple hours, tomorrow, depending on how big the, question is that I'm being asked. But I think that's a big piece too, is you can't, when you're reacting. So you're kind of leading with your emotions because we're humans. That's what we do when we're kind of like put on the spot like that. But you just have to let yourself marinate. And
Yeah.
we work in marketing. We're not doctors. Everything's going to be okay if we
Right.
wait one day to make a decision on anything. There's rarely, I mean, there's the once in a while, which I know has happened to you
Sure.
too.
The
Website goes
website's
down.
down.
It's the
Exactly.
website. It's
Just
always
got a phone call about that before, and I was like, "Luckily, I have nothing to do with that project. Go with God."
Yep. Websites are always the one where those have been the ones for me too, where I've gotten the call and I'm like, oh, it's Saturday morning and the website's down and I do need to fix it.
Yes.
But,
Well, there's another great point, though, making sure that you're building that out of your business so that you
right,
don't have those emergency situations unless that's your jam.
right,
Plenty of, like, IT tech people, like, they love.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just do
Um,
it and it's no problem. But for me, my weekends are my
yeah.
sacred time. That is when I'm unplugging. That's when I'm getting outside. I mean, I think there's a whole thing to talk about too about getting outside and being able to like make art or like whatever that means to you, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Have fun.
all of that, yes, all of the work you have to play too,
Well, that's
and
why
it
you
doesn't
built
have
this,
to
right?
be
It's
right,
not
exactly.
just and you I love that you came from an agency setting, but had enough understanding and knowing who you are to know
Mhm.
that I wanna build this differently, I wanna live differently, my business should not control and shackle me. I need to have freedom, and I'm gonna build this in a way that is extremely successful, will replace my salary, which, by the way,
Crazy.
didn't it?
It replaced my salary within the first year. And actually, we just ran our numbers a couple of days ago for where we're at, and we're up 83% on
And
revenue
how's your
year
health?
over year. Amazing. I would love to talk about that for a second too of, even when we first started working together, Kendra, I I was so sick. I would sit and you wouldn't see it, but I'd have a heating pad wrapped around me all the time. I mean, by the end of it, before I had surgery, my surgeon literally saved my life. I was having trouble walking.
Yeah.
And it's jarring when I was not expecting to have to deal with a health crisis this
Yeah.
early in my life. And it changed everything. And we went through all of it. I was able to freelance. We did my doctor's appointments. I mean, I was probably spending a full day, a full work day just at doctor appointments every single week. It was insane.
Yeah.
Um, and then, fast forward, I had my surgery. Actually, next week, go for my annual checkup to make
Wow.
sure everything is flowing correctly. All of my blood is flowing correctly. So I have a stent that, in layman's terms, basically helps my blood get from the top of my body down to my legs. Um, and after, taking on, doing all of that by myself, becoming a solopreneur, getting my stint, recovering from surgery, I mean, literally, I had my stent put in a couple years ago in March. In July, that July, I was backpacking in Aspen. I was out backpacking in the Maroon Bells and had the most beautiful experience with Mark and my brother and sister, just going out for days, just being able to immerse ourselves into nature. And I am doing so well. I am so healthy. I never thought that people like, I didn't know people felt like this every day. I was shocked when I was able to just everything started working. And I do think it does go back to living in alignment too. Of I had a crisis, and I said, okay, we need to focus on this. And health and wellness has to be one of my values, and I need to like realign back to that. And I mean, I'm doing truly better than I ever could have imagined. I'm doing things that, I'm going to the gym all the time now, going on hikes, like I said, backpacking out in the Maroon Bells. I mean, a couple weeks after surgery, I was back hiking 8, 9 miles again. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was a totally new lease on life for me. And it was just something that I had always, again, like dreamed about having. And I never even thought that I could be this happy, this successful, and this healthy, truly. It's just been an unbelievable journey for me the last few years.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
You're one of my favorite examples of exactly why I started Eve, because
Mhm.
I've just seen so many people burn out, whether they're staying in their corporate job, and not to say that everyone should quit their jobs and become an
Right.
entrepreneur, but I
It's tough.
do.
Like, it's not to make it like it's all
No,
rainbows and butterflies all the
yeah,
time.
I totally think you can still navigate corporate with the
Mhm.
same boundaries, with the same values.
Yes.
It may mean shifting, it may mean finding a new company or a new position, or asking for what you really need. I think culturally we weren't ever allowed,
Yes, that's a good point.
especially as women.
Yes. It's
But
very
you can
difficult.
absolutely do that. And then, if you do want to become an entrepreneur, and I love my life. That's the only reason I stand there and I shout this from the mountaintops, because similar, I had a lot of things happen in my life, and I've talked about this before on the podcast. My divorce was
Mhm.
the biggest one, and having to navigate being a single mom. I was actually still pregnant with my daughter. I I don't know how I would have survived. I don't even know that I would have made the choice to divorce my ex-husband had I not had my business, because I knew I could scale it
Mhm.
so that I could afford my mortgage, so I could take care of my kids on my own. I don't know what I would have done. I often think like, oh, would I have taken a second job, and then you've got to find more childcare, and just
It's
it's
really
allowed
complicated.
yeah, it's allowed so much freedom. It's both the most, challenging thing I've ever done,
Mhm.
but the most rewarding thing I've also ever done. Because I can't I get really triggered when people are like, "It's so much hard work rising," that whole grind. It's not
Ugh.
that for
Mm-mm.
me, and it's not that for you, because we built it that way. We
Exactly.
and I know when I started out, I always had this idea like, "Oh, well, this is what I see." Actually, the place you worked at, I looked at and was like, "Oh, that's the model I should build." And then meanwhile, like, when I had the brick and mortar, when I had
Mhm.
what I thought the business should look like and what success looked like, I was miserable. I hated being in a
Yeah.
physical location every day. It just and my team wasn't happy and nothing was flowing. The minute I threw away the playbook and said, "You know what? I don't care anymore. I want to do it this way and we'll just see what happens." Everything changed. Everything was so much better. I was happier. I was healthier. My client
Yep.
roster was getting bigger. It was just it was life changing. So, you know, point being, you don't have to build something in a way you traditionally think should be. Build it according to who you are, to your values, to what is important in your life. What do you want to do? How do you want to spend your days? You're hiking.
Mhm.
I try and take a 3-mile hike in the afternoon every day. It's important to me to get to Pilates. It's important that I'm at all of my kids' stuff,
Right.
so it's different for everybody, and it'll shift through your lifetime. Like, I know, there might be things in your future that are going to turn your business a little bit into the left or to the right, but you have the freedom to do that.
And I think that's such an important message too for people listening who identify with that, who resonate with that. Oh, I want to, maybe I have an agency, and maybe it is right now everyone's working 70 hours a week and it's really stressful, and you're like, "But I have to do this." You don't. You don't have to do that. And I will help you get out of that because you do not need to operate your business like that. I will help you get back into alignment. I will help you build the systems that you need to get out of the weeds and be doing what you care about because that is different for everyone. I mean, I have founders who are like me, for example. I hate sales. I hate it. I'm not good at it. It's not my favorite. I don't like it. So my ideal situation would be I just want to pass it off to Mark eventually because he's fantastic at it. But I've talked to other clients who are like, I love that part of it. I love connecting with people. I love selling. It's my favorite part. I don't want to do the client work anymore. Get me out of there. And it really is just, it just depends on what you want. And it is as simple as, I ask people so often and they're always so surprised when they come to me with a challenge and I'm like, what do you want to do? What do you want? And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm like, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've got all these yellow flags with this client. I've even got a couple of red ones, but I can't say no. Yes, you can. You can say no. And you'll find something else that will come along that is
Always.
aligned with what you're looking for. And
Always.
I that again back to just like living in alignment with your values, your business values, and then your clients' values. I mean, I've been pretty much at capacity, give or take what capacity looks like. Last year we were getting married and going on a honeymoon, so my capacity was a little lower than it is this year. Um, but I've been at capacity with clients probably for at least 6 months. I mean, Nurture's only been open for less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And the clients, they come through your network too. I mean, we've shared so many clients together. I've got leads from other women that I've met in Eve, other clients of mine. Anytime I talk to even like a new person, they're always like, tell me about your services so I can make sure that I recommend you. And I'm like, yes, and tell me your services so I can make sure that I recommend you too. And just
Right.
continuing to fuel that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm so proud of you. I
Thank
am
you.
so honored to have you in my life. Everything you're talking about, you've done for me as a business owner. So
Oh.
I can't thank you enough for that. Because while I was building my business in the way I wanted to live, my knowledge of things is only so big. So
Hmm.
when there's something I don't know, I look for the expert. And man, that's hard to find. And finding you was such a divine intervention. But when you do find those people or you hit that roadblock,
Hmm.
look for those people that are going to help you figure that out because it's figure outable. Everything is, but you don't
Everything
have to
is.
figure it out yourself.
Yes, my grandpa owned a consulting business growing up, and he always advises me and has been also just absolutely like instrumental in helping me build my business. And he always told me from when I was a little girl, you do not have to be the smartest one in the room. You actually shouldn't be the smartest one in the room, but you need to understand how to build a room of the smartest people, but you don't need to be that person. You just need to be surrounded by people like that because they will fuel your own growth and fill in all your gaps. And I
Absolutely.
think that has always rung true. That rings true not just in entrepreneurship. That's just all around.
Absolutely.
And I also want to say, I mean, likewise to how much you have impacted my growth and helped me and just really it empowered me and inspired me to grow as an entrepreneur and to grow specifically in a way that felt right to me. And I mean, that support has it just means so much to myself, to Mark. And you've also helped us build a beautiful brand. I get
I know.
so many
I forgot to wear
compliments.
your sweatshirt. I'm so upset. I'm like,
It's
do I run
okay.
downstairs and grab it? Christina
Oh,
made
that
this
is so
beautiful
good.
sweatshirt. I will somehow share it on social media so everyone can see it. But
Yeah. I mean,
well,
that's such a fun part too. I mean, being able to send each other our art and wear our art and our art is our businesses too. It's so rad.
it's
It's such an amazing thing to have that kind of support and community. And that is what you get from living in alignment. And I know a lot of our conversation has kind of just reverted back to that, but I truly feel like that has been something that has just really helped my life just take off.
yeah.
Is just always living in alignment with my core values, aligning all of the values of the people around me, the people I surround myself with personally, professionally. just all of it has been, it's very hard work and persistence to get here. You gotta definitely, you need grit, I would say, to be a solopreneur, but it finally feels like, it's been a couple years now, a few years now since I've gone out on my own. And now it feels like everything's paying off. You know what I mean? Like I've hit that point where I'm like, it's happening. Like we are taking off. Everything is going great. I'm aligned with my clients. I'm doing work that I love. And everything is just working out.
Yeah, I remember that I was sitting in a rental house when I had just, maybe I was freelancing for like a couple months. And I remember
Hmm.
sitting there thinking, I just can't wait until someday I don't have to call and try and, beat the pavement to find clients. I just can't wait
Hmm.
until the phone is ringing. I mean, at that time we had landlines and stuff, but the phone is ringing and people are coming to me and here we are 20 something years later. And that's the reality. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's when you're a good person, you do good work. It's gonna come to you,
Yeah.
and it's gonna, through that word of mouth, that networking. If you're working hard, but you're doesn't feel like it's as hard, if
Right.
that makes
Because
sense.
you
Like
love
I
it.
don't feel the same way that I felt, even though there have been some weeks where I've worked, 50 hours, and you got to do what you got to do sometimes,
Exactly.
and it just didn't feel as defeating
Right.
as it
Or
had in the
draining.
past, or draining. And I think part of it is because, when you own a business, it's at least your business, that you're putting the time, and it's your growth individually that you're fueling. But it's just it's just an awesome journey overall. I mean, it's just been really amazing the past couple of years to be able to just grow like this and experience this. And it's the stuff that I used to, when I was in college, like I used to be like, I want to own a business, I want to own an agency, and I'm doing the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. You're killing it.
Thank you.
Well, Christina, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I am so honored to have you in my life and call you a friend. And I think the world needs to know about what you offer and I mean, you changed my life,
Oh,
allowed
and
me to
likewise,
be.
likewise.
So how can people connect with you? Where can they get in contact with you about your service?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, nurtureproductivity.com. I have a contact form on there. They can read more about our services and definitely contact us through there. Or you're more than welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message, follow us on Instagram, shoot me a DM there. We monitor all of our socials. So, really, whatever channel works best for you, I would love to chat with any boutique marketing agency owners that are out there and feel like they need to bring some calm to the chaos. That's my jam.
And save money. Not only have you saved
And
me
save
time, you've
money.
saved me money because
Yes,
both
I
time and also resources.
exactly. I mean, you can, like we said, you can have a profitable agency without burning out. And I just want to help more people experience that. And that's really what it's all about for me. Like, let's get all of these boutique agencies out of the weeds and making more money, saving time, happier teams, happier clients. It's just it's there's another way to work out there, and I just really want to share that.
Well, thank you again, guys. If you wanted to connect with Christina, I'm going to have all of her links that you just mentioned in the show notes. And if all of this was kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, these are my girls, these are my people, you're a female entrepreneur, you're looking for connection, you're looking for community, you want to grow, come find us in Eve, learnwitheve.com. Find us on social media too. And, we're there for you to come into our power circle and meet you and be supported.
Thank you so much, Kendra. I really appreciate you having me on. And please come join us at Eve.
Yes. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Have a good one. So, do you see what I mean now? This is why Christina has just been a godsend for me. Having someone to come in and look at my business and understand and see where the holes are, where it can be refined. And she literally does this for me like every week. So, if you would like to connect with Christina, go to nurtureproductivity.com. I will have all of her links in the show notes. And please reach out. Let me know what you thought of this episode. I'm always interested to hear feedback. The feedback we've gotten over the bunch of years that we've been doing this has been incredible and guided me to what guests I bring on, what information we share. So let me know what you guys want to hear, what you want to know more about, what business struggles you're having that I can help you with. And if you're interested in becoming a part of the circle Christina and I are already both in, why don't you head on over to learnwitheve.com and sign up for a pass to check out what the community is all about. I'll see you soon.